Good afternoon, Chimera Crew, and to the rest of you, and welcome back to the channel. Now, with Jason added to Dead by Daylight, we officially have 19 licensed killers in this game, which is just absolutely amazing. It's nice to see characters coming from all sorts of games, movies, and anime. And with the recent stream that Dead by Daylight did, showcasing new killers and, cosmetics and stuff coming to the game, the question is always, who's next? Is my favorite character going to be added to the game? Will this character be added to the game, etc., etc.? And so I'm going to do that, except in video form, and talk about the characters I would like to see get added to Dead by Daylight as a killer. And I have these all categorized as well, ranking from more than likely to come. So, characters that would fit the game pretty well, could work or slash maybe, characters that could potentially be good candidates for the game, but maybe they're a little bit too complex, or maybe they're a little bit kind of far-fetched to be added to the game. And then the simply what, why, no way category of, yeah, there's no way that this character will be added to the game, whether it's because abilities wouldn't make sense, or maybe it's more something else. I don't know. But without further ado, I'm going to get this show on the road. Now, starting off with my first highest candidate from the more than likely to come, I'm actually going with the Evil Within. And while better character options like Ruvik or like the Keeper would probably be a more better candidate for the game, I'm actually going to go with the Laura Monster. I'm calling the Laura Monster the Rebirth. If you guys don't know, the killers are always named the and then something after that. So I'm going to try to do that with all these characters and see if try my hand at it, So we're going with Laura, aka the Rebirth. I'm picking this character because, for one, whenever I played the Evil Within, she has always been that one character that just always put me on the edge of my seat. She probably scared me the most in this game, and for good reason. But as far as an ability for her, when I did my research on this, she doesn't actually have a whole lot of crazy abilities. But what she does have is kind of like a map traversal ability. So in the game, there are these corpses that are scattered around, and when you're doing the boss fight, she can actually emerge out of these corpses and, catch you off guard and jump scare you and all that. So I think just like the Evil Within fashion, she'll emerge out of these corpses that are scattered throughout the map. She takes X amount of time or whatever before she fully emerges, and fully, whenever she can do it again. But just like the game, survivors will be able to find matches around the map and burn these corpses, making the respawn timer take even longer. Now, as far as other things that she could do, I think that she should be allowed to crawl on walls, wrap around a bit, like crawl on the buildings, crawl over walls and stuff like that. Maybe she could go over vaults a lot faster, just naturally. And whether people think of that as a crazy idea or not, I'm only throwing it out there because, for one, we have characters like Nurse, who can literally phase through buildings, phase through walls, and all kinds of stuff. We've got characters like Wesker and the Ghoul, who can just basically fly across the map. They're so fast with their dashes. We have the Lich, who can literally fly across the map. So I really don't think it's that far-fetched to give a character that can actually crawl on the walls. Plus, she's got like this spider build aspect to her, so I feel like it makes sense that she can do that. Plus, I mean, she does it in the game, in the Evil Within, so I figure why not, right? And the only other thing that I saw that could work is she has like this grab swing thing that she does, and if she catches you with it in the Evil Within, you're basically dead. But maybe instead in this game it could be like a lunge that deals damage to people. But if, like, say the survivor was on their last hook and like they could be killed, maybe the grab swing kills them instead. I don't know. But yeah, the Laura Monster, again, I think she is a pretty good candidate for the game. She's definitely got that horrific aspect that I really like. That's why I like characters like the Dredge and the Unknown and Singularity and all of them, is because they're very monster-like in a monstrous game that, you kill people in. So yeah, just one of my ideas. Now, the next idea the next character I want to throw out there is actually the Death Angels from A Quiet Place, who I've called the Blinded. I know a lot of people have talked about this character coming to this game before, and, you know, a lot of people are probably still wondering, how can they possibly do that? How can you make a blind killer or a blind character playable? And so I was thinking about it because, you know, it's a very good question, right? There's plenty of other blind characters in other games that you can play as, you know? And the best way I thought of it was give it the Daredevil treatment. If you guys don't know, a character named Daredevil is in Marvel Rivals right now, and he's blind, but they made it work. And I figured if Marvel Rivals can make a blind character work, Dead by Daylight can make a blind character work. You know, there's a few things you have to like bypass, you know, like flashlights. You still gotta let the killer be blinded. That's only fair. You can't just give it natural light born and just call it a day. But kind of the way I was looking at it is like, maybe when you're playing as the blinded, you have, you know, X amount of distance for vision, right, that you can see. And, you know, if a survivor is within your line of sight or whatever, you know, you should be able to maybe press a button that allows you to have full vision of the survivor instead of a thermal blob, and then maybe give you some movement speed or something. I don't know. I definitely think it's possible to add a character like this to the game. It's, you know, I feel like I mean, I make it sound easy. I make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. Like I'm a game developer. I have no idea how any of that works. But I figured it is possible. If other gaming companies can do it, Dead by Daylight can do it, is all I'm trying to say here. And then as far as other abilities go, maybe give it like another lunge attack, kind of like the Demogorgons. I know a lot of these are probably going to be similar to powers and stuff that killers now can do, but again, you can't make a bajillion characters in a game and not expect some overlap, so sucks to suck. And then the only other thing I could have thought about, as a form of like way to slow it down, sort of like in the movie where the main girl like used like her earpiece against the radio to like blast it with like a wave sound frequency thing. I figured maybe we can do that in the game as well. Like maybe throughout the map, survivors can find radios and put them on the ground. I guess kind of like a flamethrower turret for the xenomorph, which could like slow them down or something. I don't know. Again, I just kind of just throwing stuff out there. I think that the Death Angels are a cool idea, a cool character concept to throw in the game, and I would totally be down to see one of them. Now we get into the could work / maybe category. Again, characters that could potentially be good candidates for the game, but maybe because their abilities kit is a little bit too complex or whatever and whatnot. But I'm going to start off with what I think is probably my best banger for this category is Kratos from God of War, who I'm calling the Spartan. And now some of you may be wondering, why would I want Kratos to be a killer in the game? That doesn't make sense. You know, Kratos, you know, helps people and you know, he just wants to live for his family and do stuff, right? Well, I think that Kratos should get the white eyes theory going. And if you guys aren't aware of what that is, there's a theory in the game. People are making this theory where, so there's certain killers in the game. I believe off the top of my head, it's Wraith, it's Spirit, and the Death Slinger. You guys don't notice that those three characters have like white clouded eyes. And the theory behind this is that the entity is falsely projecting the survivors as like characters from like people from the killer's past, right? Making them see all these people that like did them wrong or whatnot, and that's why these specific killers aren't evil by nature, but they kill, you know. So I think that Kratos should get the white eyes theory as well, you know, making the entity make him see the survivors as like these different type of monsters or other threats to him, and that are threats to him and his family and stuff like that. And I think that would make sense, you know. But as far as abilities go, I think for one, he should be able to use the Chains of Chaos, because why not? Again, I haven't played any of the newer God of Wars, so I don't have, maybe there's different abilities he could have from that game, but I'm gonna go with like God of War 3 Kratos, where he has his Chains of Chaos. So if you have any ideas, any other suggestions you guys want to throw out as far as abilities and stuff for these killers, by all means, please let me know in the comments down below. But as far as his Chains of Chaos, I think he should... the Spartan can extend the reach of these Chains of Chaos to hit and damage survivors. Just a simple, like, straight line, extended range ability to damage people, you know what I mean? But then the other thing I had was his double chains. I think for this, the Spartan should be able to charge his Chains of Chaos and launch them into a survivor. If there is another survivor nearby or kind of relatively close, he can hit that survivor as well and essentially knock the two survivors into each other, kind of giving a quick way to get some damage off of people and stuff like that. However, if there's no survivors nearby, then instead he hits that same target twice and whips him closer to Spartan himself. But if he happens to hit a wall, nothing really happens. It's like the Deathslinger. If he misses, it just hits the wall and that's it. But I think this would be a neat way to like quickly get some damage in on survivors, but not make him like a crazy mobile character. You know what I mean? I think it'd be cool. But again, I think Kratos would be a fun idea to the game. You know, he's a character I've always liked, and you know, seeing the whole white eyes theory thing that I heard about, I think it'd be the perfect like way to introduce Kratos into Dead by Daylight. Now, next on my list, I'm going to go with Fiddlesticks from League of Legends, who I'm rightfully calling the Scarecrow. Originally, I wasn't even thinking about League of Legends, probably like the last thing I wanted to think about. But Fiddlesticks is like one of my favorite characters in the game, and especially after his rework, he became like the embodiment of fear, the embodiment of like evil and all this kinds of stuff. And I thought he'd be a really good candidate for the game. Now, as far as abilities go, he's probably going to be playing a little bit like the Unknown, but like I know he's going to be extremely similar to the Unknown and extremely similar to the Artist in, you know, the fact that Fiddlesticks also has like these copies of himself that he has around the map. And obviously he's a scarecrow, so he's going to be dealing with crows like the Artist. But hopefully the way I'm going to try and include Fiddlesticks in the game maybe makes him a little bit different, makes him stand out a little bit. But I'll let you guys be the deciders of that. So up first are his effigies. His effigies are the things that like he places on the map in League of Legends that are used as like wards and stuff, and like if people get too close, they mimic his actions. But I think in this game it'll be a little bit different, right? For one, obviously Fiddlesticks can't teleport to his effigies in League of Legends. You know, he can't do exactly what the Unknown does. So I think the effigies should spawn around near generators, similar to like Springtrap doors and stuff like that, similar to like Xenomorph tunnels. He cannot teleport to them, but I think the Scarecrow should be able to temporarily control them for like, you know, a couple seconds, allowing him to either use basic attacks, basic swings, or his ability that I'll talk about later from it. Survivors can destroy the effigies, and then, you know, X amount of time later they'll respawn. So the actual like ability that I'm thinking of is Reap. Reap is an ability that he has in League of Legends. It's like I guess like a circular lined ability where like it damages people, and if people are hit in the middle, they get slowed as well. So maybe similar to that, like this ability will have X amount of range that swings in a large arc. Arc was the word I was looking for earlier. If a survivor is hit, they will take damage, right? But if they hit the threshold, they'll also take they like hindered for X amount of time as well. And, you know, I think Fiddlesticks should be able to use it like maybe around a wall or something like that. Maybe not necessarily through the map itself or anything like that, but, you know, have some form of leeway. And again, he could be able to use this from his effigy if he, you know, temporarily controls it and whatnot. Now, I know I didn't really talk about Moris at all or anything with the other killers, but, you know, I think fittingly, I think Fiddlesticks should be able to use his Crowstorm ability from League of Legends as a Mori, you know, maybe swarm and overwhelm a survivor with crows and they die kind of thing. Again, I know Fiddlesticks is kind of a weird option to pick for Dead by Daylight considering how similar he is to other killers in the game, but I like Fiddlesticks. I think he's a really awesome character, and, you know, seeing him in a horror game where you kill off survivors would be pretty awesome. Now, for my last option for the could work / maybe category, I'm actually going with an anime character. I'm going with All For One from My Hero Academia, who I am calling the villain. As far as abilities, I think he should be getting like the Lich treatment, or like the entity itself like puts like a nerf. Like apparently people are saying that like, you know, the entity like buffs or nerfs killers in the game to like make them as they are, right? So like the Lich has like a limiter in the back of his neck that apparently the entity itself put on there to like nerf the Lich. I think basically All For One should get that exact same treatment because he would probably just run through everybody. The first thing I thought of is his air cannon plus spring-like limbs. This will have like a short range blast that will knock enemies backwards, but it will only deal damage if they collide with terrain. I think this would be like a nice little like crowd control ability to like prevent, you know, people from going around too far, and especially in close quarters maps like Hawkins Laboratory, or I guess the Neon City map is kind of close quarters, or like Silent Hill. I think those would be pretty good maps. And his other ability I thought of was Blood Curdle. Allows the villain to cause survivors to be unable to move for a short time if they have taken damage by basic attacks or a special ability. Survivors are given a special skill check prompt, and if they hit it, they are instantly released from Blood Curdle. I guess this is the kind of like help if like survivors are using things like Lithe, or like, you know, if the villain gets pallet stunned and survivors have some extra distance. This kind of just helps, like Blood Curdle just helps enable being able to like secure a kill and stuff like that. Is it strong? I guess on paper, yes it is. But, you know, again, All For One himself has so many abilities to go through, so even if Blood Curdle doesn't sound good to you, I'm sure he could have plenty of other abilities that will help him make up for that. And as far as Amori goes, I'm thinking he uses his Rivet Stab ability, which is like those black and red tendrils he had coming out of his fingers. He could probably just use those to pierce the survivor and just kill him or something, maybe rip him apart. I don't know. I think it'd be cool. So now, last but not least, we are here to the what, why, how, no way category. Essentially, characters that just wouldn't fit the game. Maybe they're like the killer, like the character itself doesn't have many abilities or anything that could really help classify it being put in the game. But again, just characters that I think personally would be cool anyway, even if they wouldn't make any sense. And starting off, I'm actually going with the Siren Head from the Backrooms. Only reason he's even in this list is because I saw the movie a little bit ago. I saw the movie and I thought it was cool, and why not, right? Plus, I've played the games and the Siren Head always stressed me out. So, you know, why not? Again, whether he fits or not, I don't care. As far as his ability goes, I think the Siren should send out like a loud blast of radio waves, which will cause survivors to be hindered for X amount of time and start building anxiety. In the Backrooms, eventually, like the character will start developing like, will start going like crazy, and like the way to like cure that is by drinking almond water. So when at full anxiety, if survivors are working on gens or healing another survivor, they get more skill checks than normal and they move much faster. Survivors can find limited cans of almond water through the map and drink them to reduce the anxiety. Again, just a way to like make it more interactive, you know what I mean? I don't know if the blast waves from the Siren should do damage or not. I guess that's up to the game peoples, but you know, again, I thought it'd be a cool idea. And then maybe the Mori could be like sending the survivors into the back rooms, which would cause them to just die from overwhelming stress. Or I guess just keep blasting them with unbearable radio noises until they start bleeding out the ears and the face and the nose and all the things. Again, very unlikely that the back rooms will ever be hitting Dead by Daylight. If it does, the only thing I could think of would be like making a map out of it, which would be kind of cool. But and then finally, the last character idea I have in this video, and here's so for the what, why, how, and no way. I'm going with a Pokemon idea, and I know that's kind of not surprising coming from me. I do love me some Pokemon, but why not? You know what I mean? Again, it'd be pretty funny. But as far as my candidate that I picked for the idea, just know there are hundreds of ideas, hundreds of possible choices I could have picked here. Originally, I went with Gengar as my idea. I thought Gengar would have been cool, but I opted not to go. Gengar was so close. He was my second pick for this. You also have other crazy Pokemon like Spiritomb. You've got Absol. You've got Shiftry and Cacturne. You've got all these other crazy Pokemon. But in the end, I chose Hisuian Zoroark, who I am calling the Illusionist. Now, the only reason I opted to pick Hisuian Zoroark over any of the other options I had in my head is simply because of the fact that in the anime, Zoroark is able to transform into not just Pokemon, but also people. And that is one thing that the Dead by Daylight community has been wanting, is a killer that can become a survivor, right? And so I figured, hey, why not make a Pokemon that can also turn into people a killer, right? So the Illusionist is able to transform into survivors at the start of the match once, and any time after hitting said survivor. So, you know, the Illusionist is able to pick between, you know, whoever the survivor options are, you know, right, in the game. And then, you know, after hitting the survivors later on throughout the game, the Illusionist can transform into those survivors. While disguised, the Illusionist can quote-unquote repair gens with survivors, but rather than help make progress, it instead makes it stay still, neither progressing nor digressing the gen. This opts to, like, not have multiple survivors working on the same gen together, because, right, no progress would be made. Survivors working on a gen with the Illusionist will accrue Curse, and at full stacks of Curse, survivors will be exposed to being moried by the Illusionist. I guess this is sort of like, I guess like the condemned stacks that the Onryo has, which again, things are going to overlap. I can't really control that, but I still think it'd be a cool idea. Survivors can cleanse the curse or / decrease the stacks of the curse by finding spell tags on the map, which survivors will interact with and make inputs similar to the Skull Merchant drones and make them go away. Again, and another thing, the only other reason why I would like to have a Pokemon character into Dead by Daylight is so I can see what Dead by Daylight's version of like Lavender Town's tune is, you know? Lavender Town is like the OG like horror noise tune kind of thing, you know what I mean? And that's it. Those are the characters I would like to see as killers in the game. Again, I know I didn't exactly explain them crazy well. This is kind of like my first time just sitting here blabbing about something rather than just like me gaming. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you guys want to see in the game? Let me know what you guys think of my ideas, how good or how bad suggestions are. And if you guys have any other changes to my ideas, by all means, please let me know. But otherwise, I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye.